90-day fiancé friends, please watch the full video and please subscribe. David Toborowsky had always dreamed of having a child with Annie Suwan. It was a dream he once considered impossible. After all, he was in his mid-50s, had adult children, and years ago, a doctor told him his chances of fathering a child again were slim. But love, fate, and perhaps a little medical intervention had different plans. Annie's pregnancy was nothing short of a miracle. After years of trying and even considering adoption, they were finally expecting their first child together. However, the road to this moment had not been easy. Annie struggled with severe morning sickness, and the stress of carrying a baby later in life was taking a toll on both of them. David, ever the doting husband, did everything in his power to make Annie comfortable. Foot massages, late-night cravings runs, and even learning Thai lullabies to sing to her growing belly. But as the months passed and the reality of impending fatherhood sank in, David began to wrestle with a decision that would leave Annie speechless. One evening, as Annie lay on the couch, rubbing her swollen belly, David sat beside her, a look of deep contemplation in his eyes. "Annie, love," he said, taking her hand, "I need to ask you something." She turned her gaze to him, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "What is it, honey?" David hesitated, then finally spoke. "I know this pregnancy has been really difficult for you, and I know how much we wanted this baby. But would you ever consider a surrogate for a second child?" Annie's eyes widened in shock. "Second child?" She sat up, her body tensing. "David, we haven't even had this one yet." David sighed. I know, but I never thought I'd get another chance at this. And now that we're having one, I can't help but think about the possibility of giving them a sibling. But I also don't want to put you through this again if it's too much for you." Silence filled the room. Annie stared at him, a mixture of emotions flashing across her face. Pregnancy had been exhausting, emotionally and physically draining. The thought of doing it again was daunting. Yet, she saw the hope in David's eyes, the longing, the love, the deep desire to build something lasting together. Finally, she took a deep breath and replied, "David, I love you, and I love this baby, but I need to focus on bringing this little one into the world first. Let's take it one step at a time, okay?" David nodded, squeezing her hand. "Of course, I had to ask." But little did they know, the journey ahead would be far more complicated than they ever imagined. The following weeks were filled with doctors' visits, ultrasounds, and plenty of preparation. But at their 30-week appointment, the couple received troubling news. Annie's blood pressure was dangerously high, and the doctor warned that she might develop preeclampsia, a serious pregnancy complication that could put both her and the baby at risk. David's heart sank. He had already been worried about Annie's health, but this news sent him into overdrive. He hovered over her constantly, urging her to rest, eat healthy, and avoid stress. Annie, on the other hand, was growing frustrated. "David, I know you mean well, but I'm not made of glass," she huffed one afternoon as he tried to keep her from walking too much around the house. "I just don't want anything to happen to you or the baby," David admitted, his voice cracking. "I've already lost so much in life before. I can't lose you." Tears welled in Annie's eyes. She reached out, pulling him into a tight hug. "We're going to be okay, David, but you have to trust me. I need to feel normal." David nodded, but deep down, his fears remained. As Annie's pregnancy progressed, David's worries only grew. Every cramp, every dizzy spell sent him into a panic. Finally, after a particularly stressful doctor's visit, he brought up the topic again. "Annie," he said carefully, "I don't want to risk your health again. If we ever decide on another child, would you at least think about surrogacy?" Annie, exhausted and overwhelmed, surprised both of them by responding with, "Maybe." David's eyes lit up. "Really?" She nodded slowly. "I don't know if I could do this again, David. But I know how much this means to you, so maybe we could explore the idea later, not now." David smiled, relief washing over him. "That's all I ask." But fate had one last twist in store. At 35 weeks, Annie was rushed to the hospital with severe pains. The doctors confirmed that she needed an emergency C-section. David stayed by her side, holding her hand as their baby girl, Fiancé Toborowsky, was born, tiny but healthy. The moment David held his daughter, tears streamed down his face. "She's perfect," he whispered. Annie, exhausted but elated, looked at him and smiled. "You got your miracle, honey." But what shocked them both was what happened a few days later. As Annie recovered in the hospital, a nurse walked in with an unexpected visitor. A woman named Neri, a distant cousin of Annie's from Thailand. Neri cleared her throat nervously. "Annie, David, I heard about your pregnancy struggles, and if you ever do want another child, I would be honored to be your surrogate." Annie's jaw dropped. David's eyes widened. Neither of them had expected this. As they looked at their newborn daughter, their hearts filled with love. Perhaps their family's journey was just beginning.